of other nations in choosing to become the world's police through wars such as the Spanish-American War, World War II, the Vietnam War, and the War on Terror. So, to relate to the Spanish-American War, there's preparation first, and the preparation is not very good because the Spanish-American War had many consequences. The United States was not prepared for the war and they lacked in military strength. The disadvantages included them without some proper training, without weapons for fair battle, and without military leaders. And all these poor aspects for the preparation of the war was actually better than Spain's preparation. So we did get lucky in that situation. Because Spain did have worse training with worse military strength and terrible leadership. During the battle, there were casualties always. And the Battle of Manila Bay had only one American casualty, which related to sunstroke. The invasion of Cuba was another battle was lost to the Spanish Atlantic Fleet, and that was destroyed by pursuing American forces.
Alright, so next is White Man's Burden. And it also says propaganda, but I mostly focus on White Man's Burden. And I think it is a prime example of America's outright overstepping of sovereignty. So to recap, White Man's Burden is a poem proclaiming that even though helping the Filipino natives is a nuisance and that they are wasting good men on them, it is America's duty or their burden to educate and help them. Even in the propaganda that argues for it, you could actually see on the bottom right one actually shows, like, he looks kind of obviously not very happy that he's getting hauled up the hill. And even though, like, you can't really believe everything you see, let me see. If the Filipinos wanted to be colonized, they wouldn't have fought back. And so even though we can acknowledge that the suffering that they are inflicting they still claim it as their duty. And so even if the intention is good, which I'm pretty sure is selfish, the act isn't good. And what overrides the right to self-rule? Certainly not the self-proclaimed duty, that's for sure.
Next on the board is yellow paper journalism, and this is a key aspect, an important part in the Spanish-American War. And the Spanish-American War was popularized by it, like I was just saying, and started off as many different cartoons actually. Yellow journalism was papers that weren't well-researched news, and they used eye-catching headlines to increase sales. So it was basically a lot of fake news or things that were exaggerated. And the journalists would exaggerate news events and use sensationalism to gain popularity. This kind of journalism today is looked down on as unethical, but back then, this writing was very popular. It was most popular during war times because of its misleading titles and its exaggeration. So yellow journalism said that the USS Maine was blown up by Spain also, which is another thing that was obviously exaggerated. This led to the start of the Spanish-American War, basically, and yellow journalism pushed the United States in getting involved in more wars. And William Randolph Hearst is famous for having used his newspapers to push for American involvement in the war. And this is a key reason for how our involvement in war sparked.
Alright, and then the last bullet point is anti-imperialism. And so one of the biggest points in our history of America is actually breaking away from the imperialism imposed by Britain in order to form our own country. So when we go by and try to do the exact same thing on the Philippines, it makes sense that many people would be unhappy with the decision to imperialize. Especially since the Spanish-American War is supposed to be about freeing Cuba from Spain's oppressive rulers, not taking more land. The Filipinos didn't even want our help in the first place. They had their ruler, Emilio Aguinaldo, to lead them. If America is hypocritical in the way it originated, what else would it be hypocritical on? That's all for that slide.
So, in the World War I, the United States had great growth in its industrialization. As a result of that, the demand of natural resources in America had increased,
Okay, time out.
which caused...
I've paused your time. I have to get Joey, but. Sorry, I don't want this interview. Sorry. I didn't want that to affect your time, and then I couldn't hear you when you were talking because I was busy choking over here. Okay, I think I've got it under control. Please start that section over again.
After the World War I, the United States had great growth in its industrialization. As a result of that, the demand of the natural resources in America had increased, which caused the United States to compete with other countries with interest in some of resources that they can offer, natural resources. To justify the exploration of other nations' resources, the United States used its success in the economy to extend principles of American culture around the world and apply the same growth methods in countries with different cultural traditions that are not naturally adapted to this process, just like in colonial times when the mother country imposed its cultures and natives, overstepping the sovereignty of other nations. During the World War I, United States also was an ally of France who wanted to take Alsace-Lorraine territory. So they were also supporting the France overstepping the sovereignty of other nations. In World War II, the United States showed its intolerance other culture and people and the Japanese internment camps. It was the policy established by President Franklin Roosevelt that relocate people of Japanese descent to isolated camps, what is now considered one of the most atrocious violations of American civil rights. So this is one of the images that they spread at the time. This is like the Japanese people receiving TNT, like bombs. And up there, I don't know if you guys can see it, it's waiting for the signal from home. And the place that they are is California, one of the main places that they like arrive here in America. So this is how United States was showing how people, how Japanese people were like bad and how Americans were good and overstepping their right to be free, like putting them like in jails, like they see like in Germany was doing for like for black people and gays and everything else. During the same period of time, December 28, 1942, President Roosevelt authorized the Manhattan Project, a nuclear research that gathered various scientists and military officials. Later on, the United States dropped its first atomic bomb, Little Boy, on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. The bomb exploded with about 13 kilometers of force, killing 80,000 people instantly. So the left side is Hiroshima, and the right side is Nagasaki. They look the same because like there's no way to see the difference between complete destroyed cities. 3 days later, after this huge catastrophe, the 10,000 more would later die for the radiation. The United States dropped Fat Man, the second atomic bomb on the city of Nagasaki. It killed an estimate of 40,000 people only on the impact. It was the most cruel way to win a war, saying that the United States didn't overstep in Japanese sovereignty is not only wrong and immoral, but is also to agree to the use of atomic bombs that destroy thousands of lives of women and children with impacts still existing today. So there are some pictures of the few people that survived from the atomic bombs. So the places there, like, you can't stay there anymore. There are like no people at all, and they still have people like suffering from the side effects of it. And also, South Korea was occupied by troops from the United States in 1944. So there is the 38th parallel that United States occupied the South Korea, and Soviet Union occupied the North. And also, Iwo Jima was occupied by America for 20 years after the war, after the end of the war, and didn't release the control until 1968. So the second picture in the right is showing like as if they were colonizing the I don't know how to spell that, like Jima.
Iwo Jima is how we say it. Yeah, it's a Japanese word, so.
So this shows that they were overstepping because even after 20 years of the end of war, they were overstepping the sovereignty of the country.
Okay, so our next part is about the Vietnam War, and America definitely overstepped like morals. Like they used Agent Orange, which killed over 400,000 people, and these people were just like citizens. They were civilians. They were just like you and I, and they didn't deserve that. And Agent Orange was mostly used to basically kill off all of the agriculture so that they would starve to death. So this killed innocent citizens, and it was very brutal. So that was very bad. Another campaign that the U.S. used during this war was firebombing with napalm. They burned cities and villages since they had no idea who the enemy was. They were blind firing and killing innocent people. They had disregard for the Southern government, and they did what they felt was necessary, but this was clearly an overstepping of sovereignty. Napalm was formed by mixing naphthenic and palmitic acids with gasoline. Napalm causes many issues when it came into contact with humans. When it came into contact with humans, it stuck onto the skin and melted the flesh off. The only way to put it out is to smother it and try to wipe it off, but this would actually spread it out and make it even worse. Napalm gradually became a symbol of the brutality of the Vietnam War. Later, napalm was banned from being used by the European Union for being too brutal, which shows that America shouldn't have been using such harmful sources on the enemy, even if it would lessen the number of enemies. And this was also affecting the mother, children, and other civilians for both the present and future, because these napalm and Agent Orange have lasting effects on the people, and it affected many people's lives, and it was something that America would never be able to take back.
So I have the Cold War as a whole, and first of all, let's start off with some quotes from one of my interviews. Richard and Eugene, America gets involved in wars when a country is threatened. South Korea was being threatened by the North, so the U.S. stepped in. I believe that the attack, I believe that the U.S. had to attack, or else there would be no free South Korea. I believe he thinks this way due to Cold War propaganda in the U.S. Cold War propaganda during the U.S., in the U.S. was...
You have 1 minute?
Huh?
You have 1 minute?
Oh, shoot. Okay. So, during the Cold War, U.S. propaganda was extremely manipulative. It contained things saying, go U.S., we have to stop the fight against communism. It was very anti-spy. It was always saying, watch out for your neighbor. You cannot trust your neighbor. And also, it was calling, it was just horrible racial slurs towards these, Chinese people and Koreans, North Koreans. It was horrible towards them. They're all pro-war, saying that going for war and trying to stop communism is good. You must get involved, the U.S. must get involved, and it must stop the threat of